Section 22 of the Letters of Jane Austen. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Letter 50. Godmersham Park, October 18th. My dear Aunt Cassandra, I am very much obliged to you for your long letter and for the nice account of Chawton. We are all very glad to hear that the Adams are gone, and hope Dame Libscombe will be more happy now with her deafy child, as she calls it, but I am afraid there is not much chance of her remaining long sole mistress of her house. I am sorry you had not any better news to send us of our hare, poor little thing. I thought it would not live long in that pondy house. I don't wonder that Mary Doe is very sorry it is dead, because we promised her that if it was alive when we came back to Chawton, we would reward her for her trouble. Papa is very much obliged to you for ordering the scrubby firs to be cut down. I think he was rather frightened at first about the great oak. Fanny quite believed it, for she exclaimed, "Dear me, what a pity! How could they be so stupid?" I hope by this time they have to put up some hurdles for the sheep, or turn out the cart horses from the lawn. Pray tell grandmamma that we have begun getting seeds for her. I hope we shall be able to get her a nice collection, but I am afraid this wet weather is very much against them. How glad I am to hear that she had such good success with her chickens, but I wish there had been some more bantams among them. I am very sorry to hear of poor Lizzie's fate. I must now tell you something about our poor people. I believe you know old Mary Croucher. She gets madderer and madderer every day. Aunt Jane has been to see her, but it was on one of her rational days. Poor Will Amos hopes your skewers are doing well. He has left his house in the Poor Row, and lives in a barn at Bilting. We asked him why he went away, and he said the fleas were so starved when he came back from Chawton that they all flew upon him, and eenermost ate him up. How unlucky it is that the weather is so wet. Poor Uncle Charles has come home half drowned every day. I don't think little Fanny is quite so pretty as she was. One reason is because she wears short petticoats, I believe. I hope Cook is better. She was very unwell the day before we went away. Papa has given me a half-dozen new pencils, which are very good ones indeed. I draw every other day. I hope you go and whip Lucy Chalcraft every night. Miss Clews begs me to give her very best respects to you. She is very much obliged to you for your kind inquiries after her. Pray give my duty to grandmamma and love to Miss Floyd. I remain, my dear Aunt Cassandra, your very affectionate niece, Elizabeth Knight. Thursday. I think Lizzie's letter will entertain you. Thank you for yours just received. To-morrow shall be fine if possible. You will be at Guildford before our party set off. They only go to Key Street, as Mr. Street the purser lives there, and they have promised to dine and sleep with him. Cassie's looks are much mended. She agrees pretty well with her cousins, but is not quite happy among them. They are too many and too boisterous for her. I have given her your message, but she said nothing, and did not look as if the idea of going to Chawton again was a pleasant one. They have Edward's carriage to Ospringe. I think I have just done a good deed, extracted Charles from his wife and children upstairs, and made him get ready to go out shooting, and not keep Mr. Moore waiting any longer. Mr. and Mrs. Sherrer and Joseph dined here yesterday very prettily. Edward and George were absent, gone for a night to Eastling. The two Fannys went to Canterbury in the morning, and took Lou and Cass to try our new stays. Harriet and I had a comfortable walk together. She desires her best love to you, and kind remembrance to Henry. Fanny's best love also. I fancy there is to be another party to Canterbury to-morrow, Mr. and Mrs. Moore and me. Edward thanks Henry for his letter. We are most happy to hear he is so much better. I depend upon you for letting me know what he wishes as to my staying with him or not. You will be able to find out, I dare say. I had intended to beg you would bring one of my nightcaps with you, in case of my staying, but forgot it when I wrote on Tuesday. Edward is much concerned about his pond. He cannot now doubt the fact of its running out, which he was resolved to do as long as possible. I suppose my mother will like to have me write to her. I shall try at least. No, I have never seen the death of Mrs. Crabbe. I have only just been making out from one of his prefaces that he probably was married. It is almost ridiculous. Poor woman! I will comfort him as well as I can, but I do not undertake to be good to her children. She had better not leave any. Edward and George set off this day week for Oxford. Our party will then be very small, as the Moores will be going about the same time. To enliven us, Fanny proposes spending a few days soon afterwards at Fredville. It will really be a good opportunity, as her father will have a companion. We shall all three go to Wrotham, but Edward and I stay only a night perhaps. Love to Mr. Tilson. Yours very affectionately, J. A. Letter 51. Godmersham Park, Wednesday, November 3rd. My dearest Cassandra, I will keep this celebrated birthday by writing to you, and as my pen seems inclined to write large, I will put my lines very close together. I had but just time to enjoy your letter yesterday before Edward and I set off in the chair for Canterbury, and I allowed him to hear the chief of it as we went along. We rejoice sincerely in Henry's gaining ground as he does, and hope there will be weather for him to get out every day this week, as the likeliest way of making him equal to what he plans for the next. If he is tolerably well, the going into Oxfordshire will make him better, by making him happier. Can it be that I have not given you the minutiae of Edward's plans? See, here they are: to go to Wrotham on Saturday the 13th, spend Sunday there, and be in town on Monday to dinner, and, if agreeable to Henry, spend one whole day with him, which day is likely to be Tuesday, and so go down to Chawton on Wednesday. But now I cannot be quite easy without staying a little while with Henry, unless he wishes it otherwise. His illness and the dull time of year together make me feel that it would be horrible of me not to offer to remain with him, and therefore, unless you know of any objection, I wish you would tell him with my best love that I shall be most happy to spend 10 days or a fortnight in Henrietta Street if he will accept me. I do not offer more than a fortnight, because I shall then have been some time from home, but it will be a great pleasure to be with him, as it always is. I have the less regret and scruple on your account, because I shall see you for a day and a half, and because you will have Edward for at least a week. My scheme is to take Bookham in my way home for a few days, and my hope that Henry will be so good as to send me some part of the way thither. I have a most kind repetition of Mrs. Cook's 2 or 3 dozen invitations, with the offer of meeting me anywhere in one of her airings. Fanny's cold is much better. By dozing and keeping her room on Sunday, she got rid of the worst of it, but I am rather afraid of what this day may do for her. She is gone to Canterbury with Miss Clews, Liz, and Marianne, and is but roguish weather for any one in a tender state. Miss Clews has been going to Canterbury ever since her return, and it is just now accomplishing. Edward and I had a delightful morning for our drive there. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but the day turned off before we were ready, and we came home in some rain and the apprehension of a great deal. It has not done us any harm, however. He went to inspect the jail as a visiting magistrate, and took me with him. I was gratified, and went through all the feelings which people must go through, I think, in visiting such a building. We paid no other visits, only walked about snugly together, and shopped. I bought a concert ticket, and a sprig of flowers for my old age. To vary the subject from gay to grave with inimitable address, I shall now tell you something of the Bath party, and still a Bath party they are, for a fit of the gout came on last week. The accounts of Lady B. are as good as can be under such a circumstance. Dr. P. says it appears a very good sort of gout, and her spirits are better than usual, but as to her coming away, it is of course all uncertainty. I have very little doubt of Edward's going down to Bath, if they have not left it when he is in Hampshire. If he does, he will go on from Steventon, and then return direct to London, without coming back to Chawton. This detention does not suit his feelings. It may be rather a good thing, however, that Dr. P. should see Lady B. with the gout on her. Harriet was quite wishing for it. The day seems to improve. I wish my pen would too. Sweet Mr. Ogle! I dare say he sees all the panoramas for nothing, has free admittance everywhere. He is so delightful. Now you need not see anybody else. I am glad to hear of our being likely to have a peep at Charles and Fanny at Christmas, but do not force poor Cass to stay if she hates it. You have done very right as to Mrs. F. A. Your tidings of S. and S. give me pleasure. I have never seen it advertised. Harriet, in a letter to Fanny to-day, inquires whether they sell cloths for pelisses at Bedford House, and if they do, will be very much obliged to you to desire them to send her down patterns, with the widths and prices. They may go from Charing Cross almost any day in the week, but if it is a ready money house it will not do, for the brew of fur the Archbishop says she cannot pay for it immediately. Fanny and I suspect they do not deal in the article. The Sherers, I believe, are now really going to go. Joseph has had a bed here the last 2 nights, and I do not know whether this is not the day of moving. Mrs. Sherer called yesterday to take leave. The weather looks worse again. We dine at Chilham Castle to morrow, and I expect to find some amusement, but more from the concert the next day, as I am sure of seeing several that I want to see. We are to meet a party from Goodnestone, Lady B., Miss Hawley, and Lucy Foote, and I am to meet Mrs. Harrison, and we are to talk about Ben and Anna. "My dear Mrs. Harrison," I shall say, "I am afraid the young man has some of your family madness, and though there often appears to be something of madness in Anna too, I think she inherits more of it from her mother's family than from ours." That is what I shall say, and I think she will find it difficult to answer me. I took up your letter again to refresh me, being somewhat tired, and was struck with the prettiness of the hand. It is really a very pretty hand now and then, so small and neat. I wish I could get as much into a sheet of paper. Another time I will take 2 days to make a letter in. It is fatiguing to write a whole long one at once. I hope to hear from you again on Sunday, and again on Friday, the day before we move. On Monday, I suppose, you will be going to Streatham, to see quiet Mr. Hill, and eat very bad baker's bread. A fall in bread, by the by. I hope my mother's bill next week will show it. I have had a very comfortable letter from her, one of her foolscap sheets quite full of little home news. Anna was there the first of the 2 days. An Anna sent away and an Anna fetched are different things. This will be an excellent time for Ben to pay his visit, now that we, the Formidables, are absent. I did not mean to eat, but Mr. Johncock has brought in the tray, so I must. I am all alone. Edward is gone into his woods. At this present time I have 5 tables, 28 chairs, and 2 fires all to myself. Miss Clews is to be invited to go to the concert with us. There will be my brother's place and ticket for her, as he cannot go. He and the other connections of the Cages are to meet at Millgate that very day, to consult about a proposed alteration of the Maidstone road, in which the Cages are very much interested. Sir Brooke comes here in the morning, and they are to be joined by Mr. Deedes at Ashford. The loss of the concert will be no great evil to the Squire. We shall be a party of 3 ladies, therefore, and to meet 3 ladies. What a convenient carriage Henry's is to his friends in general. Who has it next? I am glad William's going is voluntary, and on no worse grounds. An inclination for the country is a venial fault. He has more of Cowper than of Johnson in him, fonder of tame hares and blank verse than of the full tide of human existence at Charing Cross. Oh, I have more of such sweet flattery from Miss Sharp. She is an excellent kind friend. I am read and admired in Ireland too. There is a Mrs. Fletcher, the wife of a judge, an old lady, and very good and very clever, who is all curiosity to know about me, what I am like, and so forth. I am not known to her by name, however. This comes through Mrs. Carrick, not through Mrs. Gore. You are quite out there. I do not despair of having my picture in the exhibition at last, all white and red, with my head on one side, or perhaps I may marry young Mr. D'Arblay. I suppose in the meantime I shall owe dear Henry a great deal of money for printing, etc. I hope Mrs. Fletcher will indulge herself with S. and S. If I am to stay in H.S., and you should be writing home soon, I wish you would be so good as to give a hint of it, for I am not likely to write there again these 10 days, having written yesterday. Fanny has set her heart upon its being a Mr. Brett who is going to marry a Miss Dora Best, of this country. I dare say Henry has no objection. Pray, where did the boys sleep? The Deedes come here on Monday to stay till Friday, so that we shall end with a flourish the last canto. They bring Isabella and one of the grown-ups, and will come in for a Canterbury ball on Thursday. I shall be glad to see them. Mrs. Deedes and I must talk rationally together, I suppose. Edward does not write to Henry, because of my writing so often. God bless you. I shall be so glad to see you again, and I wish you many happy returns of this day. Poor Lord Howard! How he does cry about it! Yours very truly, J. A. Section 23.